Hey guys, Guy here. Welcome. It is Monday evening. I was in Santa Clara today for the 49ers' first padded practice, and I'm back to report what I saw, or at least to tell you. Not a reporter, just here to tell you. Spent all last week in Indianapolis at Big Ten Media Days, where they finally made, not they finally, where they finally made it official that I'll be calling Big Ten football Big Ten Network this year, which I'm very excited about. All right, a few things to tell you that I came away from practice today thinking were big questions. Other things that are regular questions. Nick Bosa not in pads today. Mooney Ward not in pads today. Trent Williams not there today. Brandon Ayuk there watching from the sidelines. Kittle there didn't participate in team drills. Kyle Juszczyk did not participate in most of it, and Ricky Pearsall was there and participated, but not in the team period, and that may happen tomorrow. One thing the Niners do very well, we've seen it now for multiple years this time of year, is awkward camp. Whether it was Jimmy Garoppolo 2 years ago throwing behind the bleachers at practice that was open to the fans. Everybody was instructed, don't film Jimmy Garoppolo. He's throwing on the backfield. And the media did not. But of course, plenty of fans posted videos of Jimmy throwing. Last year, awkwardness with four quarterbacks competing for three spots, really three quarterbacks competing for two spots. And it was weird. It was weird the day that Trey Lance didn't show up. Today, the awkwardness continued from last week, which is Brandon Ayuk holding in. He's there. He's going to meetings. He's standing on the side. And it just feels like it's weird for him. Like it feels like it would be a weird position to be in if you're him. The hold in is a pretty common thing around the league. These guys are professionals. They've been around it. They were there last year when Nick Bosa did not hold in. He held out. They're there right now when Trent Williams is not holding in. He's not showing up. So in a weird way, just being totally removed feels worse, but it's less awkward. You're caught in the middle a little bit. What are you when you're Brandon Ayuk? And I don't think it's awkward for his teammates. I think it sucks for him. It feels like it kind of sucks for him. And it doesn't help when you look out and you see that, half of their star players are not participating. So, that's the big thing you're waiting for. And Trent Williams, the other big thing you're waiting for. I think one thing that's immediately clear, and I do think we have to give the backup quarterbacks, I'm starting now. I do think you have to give the backup quarterback some time. Last year, as camp went on, Sam Darnold looked better and better. So we've got to give Joshua Dobbs some time, maybe, to feel more comfortable with the offense. There's a lot going on. This is the first padded practice. So let's see if in a week Joshua Dobbs looks better. Does he separate from Brandon Allen, who should have an advantage at this point? Just like early on last year in minicamp, Trey Lance had an advantage over Sam Darnold. That advantage shrunk and then dissipated once Darnold was in the playbook and knew the offense better and was comfortable running the offense. Let's see if that happens. I think Brock Purdy's health last year was such a big story in terms of will he recover? What was not a story was will he stay healthy, because it turned out he stayed healthy. This year, it's more important that Brock Purdy stays healthy and that they protect Brock Purdy than last year, because regardless of who their backup quarterback is, the 49ers backup quarterback position is not as good as it was last year. Josh Dobbs is not as good as Sam Darnold, and it is even more important this year that Brock Purdy is healthy because of that. It makes signing Trent Williams all the more important. It makes solidifying the center position all the more important. It makes getting Spencer Burford healthy, or figuring out, can Dominic Puni, the draft pick from Kansas, play immediately at guard, all the more important. 49ers have some major questions on their offensive line right now. They have some major questions at a few different spots. And it's not a good year to have major questions on your offensive line. There's never a good year to have major questions on the offensive line. But they really, I think, have even a greater need to protect Brock. Now, as it turned out, I don't think we knew. I certainly didn't know last year, week one, or going into week one, how good of a year Brock Purdy would have. Now that we know how good he can be, and the gap to me is even bigger between him and the backup spot, keeping him healthy is mission critical. And I know it feels like protecting your quarterback is always mission critical, but it's extra mission critical this year because they're not going to be as good that spot. Doesn't mean Darnold could have gone 10-2. I'm not saying that. I felt like I started out really cool on Darnold and I warmed a little bit. Some people thought I warmed too much. I didn't think I warmed too much because we never really got to see him play. But I'm just telling you, what I'm comparing these two guys to, Allen and Dobbs, is not to each other. I just want to know, can they get the same level of backup play they got last year? It's been one day of padded practice. That's what I'll be watching in August. I think the early return is that's not going to be the case. But we'll see. Darnold got better as camp went on last year. You got about $2.25 million in guaranteed money between those two guys. You're not going to. There's not another quarterback out there. You're not going to do anything else at that spot. That's who you got. As for Brock, I was not there last week because I was in Indianapolis. The zip is real. I do think, there's been some discussion about Brock being stronger. No doubt you would expect that Brock has more zip on the ball. My buddy Yogi Roth, who I'm calling Big Ten games with this year, wrote a piece for his Substack, and he talked about, and he's worked the Elite 11 show on ESPN for the last 15 years. And he talks about this thing. He's got this thing like, does the ball talk? And what does the ball say? When you watch a quarterback, what does the ball say? And Brock is a spiral machine, or at least he was a spiral machine today. It feels to me, I didn't log spirals last year. It feels like he's throwing a more consistent, tighter spiral than even last year. It does feel like he's picked up a few miles per hour on not his fastball, just his regular throw. And I think he does look stronger. So, it's been one practice. We'll see it in real time. When you start throwing NFL outs and that sort of thing, I think that's when you really feel it. But I do think the reports that I saw from some people that he's got a little more zip. I think it's true. I think he does have a little more zip. The other thing, and somebody asked about it here in the chat. Where did this go? Usually don't dive into the chat, but let's see where this is, because this is part of this. Paulo says with a smiley face, we've heard everyone else hate on or defend Brock. So what you got? I think we know the way Brock practices. He threw 3 interceptions today. One was bad, one was and one was not his fault. So as was the case last year, I think you got to put context on everything. And one hit his intended receiver, the tight end, Logan Thomas, in the face or in the chin or in the chest on the goal line, got deflected. And what do you know? Fred Warner was there to catch it. One was a sideline ball. He had pressure on him. And it's happened right in front of me. He was trying to get it to Braden Willis on the sideline. Willis had a defender underneath him. Willis is big. It was going to be a difficult play. I thought, and it's really hard to put, I'll put this caveat here for Braden Willis, who I like, and it seems like they like. I need to watch this a couple more times to know, but my snap judgment was that became a ball where he needed to go just get a PBU. Diamador Lenore came over from, I'm not sure where, out of nowhere, came flying through over the top of Braden Willis, who's a big guy, and made a fantastic catch, bounced on the ground and held on. The one interception that he threw in the red zone that was bad was George Odom just jumped his route to Debo. I do think doesn't mean much to me. Doesn't really mean anything to me. Doesn't mean anything to me. I think we saw the way Brock Purdy practiced last year, and then we saw the way Brock Purdy played last year. And he definitely was a guy that threw with anticipation and was not afraid of taking risks in games. But his his interception numbers were much higher in practices. And of course, so it doesn't really mean much to me today. We'll watch how things play out. It didn't mean much to me last year. For those of you who followed last year, what I said when Brock was throwing interceptions in camp, what I said was, not all interceptions are created equal. So let's see, what is he doing? Is he pushing the ball? Is he taking chances? That sort of thing. So those were the three picks today. But he just looks he looks in control. Remember last time the Niners had camp last year, Brock was 2 days on and 1 day off, and then he'd be like off for 2 days in a row, and you're trying to figure out what's going on with him, and so it's nice to not have to for them not to have to deal with that. The receiver spot is one of the big questions is when do you get help from the next wave of receivers? Is there even a next wave of receivers with no Ayuk? You can really feel it. What Kyle Shanahan said on Monday, many of you may already know. What he said on Monday was they're going to see how Ricky Pearsall's hamstring reacts to practicing today. He did not participate in the team part of drill. So when they go 11 on 11, they try to move the ball down the field. They go into the red zone. He did not participate in that. So they're going to see how he feels tonight. They're going to see how he feels in the morning. And if all is well, then he'll be on the practice field at 10:20 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow. Again, just like he was today, but will participate in team drills tomorrow. So that'll be the story of Tuesday. Does he or doesn't he? And if he does, what we see out of it. Jacob Cowing. I've said this. I said this going back to minicamp, and I'll repeat it. There was this post-draft kind of energy because it's easier to like the fourth round guy than the first round guy sometimes, that Jacob Cowing would be the instant impact receiver, not Ricky Pearsall. I said then that's probably not going to happen. I continue to say now, every day that passes, that is less likely to happen, especially if Ricky Pearsall gets on the field healthy tomorrow or Tuesday. Jacob Cowing maybe will be back next week from a hamstring. So that storyline from minicamp or from post-draft should be dead. I think it is dead. Guess what? The Niners tried to hit a deep ball today. Did they? No. Deebo Samuel had a step. He had a step on Isaac Yiadom, who, but for the most part, he's on my list, heavily highlighted on my list. Coming out of minicamp, he looked like DB2 with Deommodore Lenoir playing nickel, but we'll see. I mean, Lenoir and Mooney Ward are your top two guys, but Yiadom I thought was going to be a good player. He stands out physically. Deebo got a step on him, and Brock overshot him by 7 yards. So maybe tomorrow. I just happened to be standing next to Kawakami, who I've had this conversation. If you've been watching or listening to the show for a while, I've said going back at least 2 years to 2022, but definitely last year to 2023, the Niners don't hit deep balls. They don't hit them in games. They don't hit them in practice. I know that the numbers say they hit chunk plays. I'm talking about over-the-top home run throws. If the guy catches it, there's no one between him and the goal line. They don't hit that play. I think it's a combination of a variety of things. Namely, their receivers are not those types of receivers. Their quarterbacks don't get much chance to hit it. They don't really dial it up much. It doesn't happen. Maybe this year it'll happen more, but on Monday, July 29th, it did not. Maybe tomorrow. This was a good chance to review my minicamp take that Danny Gray is not quite ready to leave the roster. Because he's fast, he's the one guy that you think, well, maybe you can hit some deep balls to Danny Gray. That was the idea when they drafted him. The problem was it felt like when he got on the field during games in limited opportunities, his floor was really low. It felt like in practices historically, his floor was really low. I thought in minicamp, he looked like a guy ready to compete. I thought again today, he looked like a guy ready to compete. He's been a little more consistent. I think one thing that does seem to happen with him a lot, even in a practice where he makes some plays, he has missed opportunities. Today, he had a missed opportunity. He stumbled twice running routes. He seems to slip or fall down more than the other receivers. Maybe it's because of how fast he's going. I don't know. We need a receiver expert in here. Once he stumbled against Diameter Lenore, recovered and made the catch. It was a really nice play. So he added a degree of difficulty to it, but like Simone Biles, he made the play in the end. Another play in the red zone, he stumbled, and ultimately it cost him a touchdown. He stumbled. He was going to be open. He still was open, but the ball was already in the air, and because he stumbled, he didn't get to the ball. Juwan Jennings, I mean, just looks good. Juwan Jennings just looks good. Juwan Jennings, without Brandon Ayuk, without Ricky Pearsall, he and Deebo Samuel just look different than all the other receivers. They are different than all the other receivers. He's trustworthy. He has physicality. He practices hard. He's in the right place at the right time. When you see Brock Purdy throwing to Juwan Jennings, it looks like the big leagues. Not everything that happens looks like the big leagues. When those two guys are practicing together, it just looks like the big leagues, which is why when Renardo Green intercepted a fade ball to Juwan Jennings in the corner of the end zone, it was really impressive for the rookie out of Florida State to go take a ball away from Juwan Jennings. And that's kind of what it was. Juwan Jennings had a chance, had his hands there, and Renardo Green beat him for the ball. It wasn't the best throw. It was a little underthrown, but he got beat on the play. So, you know what? We mentioned interceptions. I might have given Purdy, in the end, Purdy had 3. I might have given Purdy the wrong interception earlier. But anyway, it was a really good play from Renardo Green. So he looked good. I give him a lot of credit for that. When you see a guy beat a guy deep, when you see a guy get an interception, you kind of want to see, well, who are they going up against? And so when Danny Gray slips and makes a catch on Diameter Lenore, that's impressive. When Renardo Green makes an interception, gets a pick on Juwan Jennings, that's impressive. So that's where I am with the receivers. They're a different team without Brandon Ayuk, obviously. Diameter Lenore made the nice play. Renardo Green made the nice play. Deebo Samuel took a hit from Taylor Hawkins, kind of accidentally over the middle. Deebo pops up. But what was interesting about that play to me was that if Hawkins doesn't get there, Malik Mustafa gets there. And he was coming downhill very quickly. For him, another one of the 49ers rookies who there's been a lot of talk of post-draft, out of Wake Forest, I think one of the questions coming out of minicamp was like, could he play like a pseudo linebacker? At 5'10", it doesn't look like that would work to me. But, whatever. They've got, hopefully for them, Hufanga coming back soon, and then we'll see how things play out at safety. A big question, one thing that I think qualifies as a major question, is defensive end. Now, Nick Bosa is on the team, so it's not fair to say, well, when Nick is not there, you really see how much they miss him, but Nick is not there, and you see how much they miss him. When he's not out there, really Leonard Floyd is the guy. And Leonard Floyd looks like a big leaguer, looks like a pro. He is. But it's jarring, the lack of depth at the defensive end spot when you see it. And that leads me to this question on the chat from Mateo. He says, some good defensive ends available in light of Drake Jackson. Would love to get Carl Lawson familiar with the Niners system. And Yannick Ngakoue available too. Now, I don't know how much the Niners really were relying on Drake Jackson to begin with, but he cannot catch a break. The patellar tendon surgery, he's going to be out all of camp, Kyle Shanahan said today. And, there are some options for the Niners. Ngakoue ended last year on IR, had 4 sacks in 13 games last year. A guy who always showed up when he played the Niners back when he was on the Cardinals and was on the Steelers last year was Marcus Golden, who is more of a 3-4 outside linebacker. Shaq Lawson brings some size. He's also available. Mateo asked about Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson has been hurt a lot. He had the Achilles in 2021, came back in 22, missed most of 23. Rasheem Green, I saw somebody mention, who the one thing that he has is that he's just younger, like 5 or 6 years younger than most of these other guys. But it would not shock me to see the Niners go there. They early in camp last year, they signed a free agent defensive end, Taco Charlton. So, and then he got hurt. But they've done it, and it feels like they could do it. Kyle Shanahan was asked about the depth today and kind of the lack of it, at least, and kind of downplayed it. But yeah, not great. Not great. Let's see here. What else did? Oh, the tight ends. Eric Saubert. Okay. Braden Willis played a little fullback today for them, and was not a one play. Brandon Allen had to move him to the correct spot. His defense, he's not that, and that's fine. But Mason Pline made a really nice play. Mason Pline, again, scramble. These scrambles in practice get really extended, but Mason Pline is playing along on the scramble drill, kind of along the hash marks, goes up, uses his height to make a nice catch from Josh Dobbs. And then I thought what was really impressive was he turns and just bolts upfield. An absolute bullet, takes off. Well, bullet might be strong. He ran quickly for a tight end for a guy his size, scored a touchdown. So no reason to reduce the optimism on Mason Pline. We'll see as time goes on, but I think one thing I'm watching there is just, does Logan Thomas do enough to justify being ahead of the rookie Pline? Cam Latu had a catch today, and that was good. That's good for him. He's got a lot to work back from in terms of confidence. Last year he did drop the ball frequently. Then he got hurt in camp, and he returns to a tight end room that's pretty crowded. So he's got a long way to go. But these guys blocking is a big deal. Mason Pline being able to block is a big deal. Braden Willis being able to block is a big deal. Had the penalty in the Super Bowl. And maybe that's, Cam Latu, maybe he can make up some ground. Who else made a nice little stop today? Not a little stop. It was Jalen Graham had a big hit in the hole today. I'm just going through the board, going through the notes. Those are all the notes I organized, but I just wanted to see Jake Moody hit from 37, 43, 43, and 47. Those numbers are unofficial by my sideline math. Contract year for Brock Purdy. Contract year, maybe, for Brandon Ayuk. I know there's been a internet rumor that CeeDee Lamb signed a big contract. I've yet to see exactly. I don't think that's been a Shefty report yet. So we'll keep an eye on that. Tatum Bethune, maybe that's another guy that can. I know some people talked about after the draft. Can he run around at some linebacker? More so, to be fair, it was more Bethune. I think Malik Mustafa was just kind of a fun sign conversation I had with somebody. It was really Bethune is the one that people have wanted to see. Astro says, is Isaac Garendo on track to continue mid-round running back bust tradition? Well, he's got to get on the field. Got a hamstring that he's dealing with. So we'll see. Cody Schrader looks like a athletic bowling ball when he's out there running around. I just got to hit one. I thought Elijah Mitchell looked good today. Kyle Shanahan was asked about Jordan Mason and gave Jordan Mason a lot of credit. He said, nothing, take nothing away from Elijah, but Jordan Mason's doing a good job. Okay. Elijah Mitchell still just, I'll keep using that phrase because I like it today. Apparently it's stuck in my head. It just really looks like a big leaguer. Before I get to some more of your questions, I want to remind you that I'm brought to you today by CIRCA Sportsbook. The biggest pro football contest in football are back. The CIRCA Survivor and CIRCA Million contests are now up to $16 million in guaranteed prizes. $6 million prize guarantee for the CIRCA Million contest. That's $1,000 per entry. You pick 5 teams against the spread every week. Last place gets a $100,000 booby prize. Then there's the CIRCA Survivor contest, $10 million guaranteed to the winner or winners to split. That is one team straight up, not against the spread every week, can only pick the same team. You can't pick the same team twice. And you go as long as people can go undefeated. Last year, 4 winners split $9.2 million. That was $2.3 million each, the largest legal contest in football history. You got to go to Nevada to sign up. Okay, you got to go to CIRCA Sportsbook in Reno or in Vegas or in Henderson. The way the process works is you go there to sign up. You sign up there with a proxy, which allows you to bet from or play from wherever you are. For more information, visit circasports.com. Click on contest, circasports.com. Click on contest. All right, let's get to some more of your comments and questions. Yatir Gross Matos is one of my sleepers, says Khalil. Yeah, he's going to need to be. Astro says, Pretty Ricky said $136 million 4-year contract. That guy seems to hit on all the contract news. For the uninitiated, Pretty Ricky is a guy with a pretty big following on X and does seem to hit on all the news. That's the extent of the reporting right now on a CeeDee Lamb contract. What would that be? 136 divided by 4 is 34. 34. Is that right? So that would be significant divided by 4. Now, I don't think Ayuk gets 136. Let's just actually do the math. 34. Ayuk would not surpass that, I don't think. It's got to be brutal for him to just stand around. Murray says tight end log jam. Yeah, yes, but with a serious lack of production. So I think if you look at it and go, okay, who's the veteran who they can rely on to block? You say that's Eric Saubert. And you go, well, who's up next? Maybe it's Braden Willis because he's just ahead of these other guys, right? He's young. He's been there. So he should have a lead on him. But there's really not a lot of production after that. So my hesitation is just that this should kind of play itself out. This will be, I think, one of the fun parts of the preseason games is going to be these tight ends. Question, when should we trade for Zay Jones? Asking for a friend for what it's worth. As soon as you know you can't get the deal done with Ayuk is when you trade him straight up for Zay Jones. Comment from Farrell. I'm looking for Brock to throw at these practices and be aggressive, even though maybe lots of interceptions. Again, these are practices with pads. I'll let you know what I think after every practice I attend. I think we have to keep in mind the way Brock played practice last year, which is he took a lot of chances. You also have to just keep in mind some balls are bad decisions and bad throws. Some balls are up there for somebody to go make a play. Let's see what you got, right? It's practice. It's your chance to throw a jump ball to Juwan Jennings and see what he's got. I'm convinced, and I've said this for a year now, that the Niners just – because if you're going to throw over-the-top go balls, Debo's not the guy to throw them to. But they do it every practice. As if they're just, you know what? Debo works his ass off. He's one of our dudes. Let's just try. It's not part of their deal. Stop throwing the 9 ball to Debo. He's not a route runner like that. Yeah, I think it's practice and it's fun. Like, let's try and get one to Debo. I think Debo wants it. Of course he wants it. He's running it. Comment, Pearsall does 11 on 11 tomorrow. That's the hope, but the Niners say they will not know they will not know until tomorrow morning. Comment about contracts. The prospect of paying Brock Purdy $60 million per year adds another layer of complexity to the Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams hold in and hold out. Maybe less so with Trent. You can probably happily raise Trent's guarantee this year and then maybe revisit it again next year. With Ayuk, you even if you give him a sizable contract, on paper you've got very expensive receivers in 2025, but you know that it doesn't cost you a ton to move on from Debo next year. You guys may also know that I'm not in a rush to move on from Debo Samuel. So while this is true, it's absolutely true. I do think it's workable. And I know it feels like it's become just accepted that Brock's making $60 million next year. We'll see. We'll see. Chad asks, if we do make a splash trade at this point during the year, or at any, this could be at any point during the year, what position is it? Well, I don't know. I mean, there's not splash trades out there every year. There aren't splash trades every year in the NFL. I think Christian McCaffrey, that's a splash trade. Randy Gregory, I would not call that a splash trade. I mean, just any trade might be a defensive end, might be a linebacker. I guess you could trade away a running back potentially, but with the Garendo injury, I think you're less likely to do that. Assad says Adam Schefter was on Pat McAfee and said that if they trade Brandon Ayuk right now, it would probably be 70 cents on the dollar. Hopefully they don't do that. Would suck if we got fleeced on an Ayuk trade. There's no reason to do it right now. None. Kyle Shanahan today, I don't know, for those of you who watched him, if you noticed, he said, I don't remember the exact verbiage. Actually, I could find the exact verbiage because I have the text of what he said right here. But he talked about Brandon Ayuk and getting a deal done in the context, not of if, but when. Let me see here if I can find it real quick. This is what Shanahan said. I think it's good when he was asked about Ayuk being there on the sideline versus not being there. He said, I think it's good when any of these guys have the business part of the contracts going on and everything. I think it's good to not get too far away from football. At least he can be with his teammates here in meetings, get some work with the strength and conditioning coaches, things like that. Hopefully, when things work out, it just makes it a little bit of a smoother transition. Now, maybe he's just trying to speak it into existence, but that's what he said today. So take that for what it's worth. Brian asks, is the Dominic Purdy draft pick more important than we expected with the Burford injury? Spencer Burford walking around with a little makeshift cast on his hand, still has not had surgery. It's going to get a second opinion or get another evaluation. I don't know that it's a second opinion necessarily. But I would say this, I don't think it's more important than expected because they were rotating right guards last year all the way through the Super Bowl. So the second they used a valuable pick on a guard, I think we all started thinking, could this guy just win the job? So I would, my answer to that question is no, it's not more important than we expected. It just has less of a safety net than we expected, right? Because it was going to be, well, if Purdy can win the job, great. If not, back to Burford. But Now a little less of that. Murray says, oh, this is interesting. It feels like the only chance of Ayuk being traded would be for offensive line help. But who would want to give up quality offensive line? You know, I think the better way to look at that question is, does Kyle Shanahan value offensive line enough to trade Brandon Ayuk for an offensive lineman? Like, if he was going to trade, if you said right now, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are going to trade Brandon Ayuk this year for a player, what position do they trade for? Be like defensive end, linebacker, interior defensive lineman. Boy, they love that. Corner, probably not this year. I don't think they'll need it this year, but corner's always on the list. I don't think it's O-line. This is a question about Purdy. Could he also replace Banks next year? It might be too expensive to re-sign him. Sure. Comment. Kyle Shanahan mentioned that Jordan Mason is making great strides. I believe it helps when McCaffrey goes hard on every practice. National Wing Day. Get your deals. All right. Tristan Wirfs might think about it. Okay. Would they do that? Pasta of my domain says, feels like Trent Williams wants to destroy the 4-year, $112 million deal that Sewell got. I'm sure he does. So this is a reaction to me saying, oh, you could just do a deal with Trent Williams that is reworkable next year. Don't make the mistake. I shouldn't say don't make the mistake. It's dangerous to look at Trent and go, it's all one more year and then he retires. Because we've talked about that for a couple of years. And Trent doesn't appear like he's about to retire. I mean, I've said this before. We're always trying to retire him. Now, this might be it. And you look up and, people are talking about him like he's the best tackle in the game. Will Penei Sewell take that crown from him this year? I don't know. But they're going to have to get a little creative. But I got to imagine they expected a little bit Trent Williams to want some more money. I mean, that is generally the way it goes. You got to pay Wirfs. What's his deal? Oh, well, he was in the, okay. Right. He was in the Ayuk, right? He was in the Ayuk draft. He went to Iowa? That's right. Tristan Wirfs. Miles apart. The Bucks and Wirfs miles apart on a contract, according to Jordan Schultz. Yeah. Comment. Should have paid Ayuk before the market ballooned. He wanted to do a deal earlier, but like always, we decided to wait. You're right. I think they thought they were close to a deal. I think he thought they were close to a deal. And it did balloon on him. Yeah. It made it messy. Yeesh. Made it messy. Okay, I think that's that for practice reports. We'll be back out there on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then I will then have Thursday off. So we'll be out there I'll be out there the next couple of days and get you guys some stuff. At some point, maybe I'll mention a few college football things. I get some questions from you guys about my schedule. I'll just say this: the first 3 games of the year on the Big Ten Network, I'll be at 3 of the most significant programs in all of college football. I'm very excited about it. Very excited about it. Also, there's been just like some. I'll be very interested for the Chicago Bears, because if you've been watching or listening, you know that I liked the Caleb Williams pick. I mean, he was the clear number 1, but I think very highly of him. USC is going to play LSU week 1 of the college football season, and both teams are replacing Heisman winning quarterbacks who went very high in the draft, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. It'll be really interesting to see. The game's in Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. It'll be really interesting to see if USC goes out and looks good on offense, looks efficient on offense with Miller Moss, who's kind of the guy that's been there for a while, because there's been some, I've heard some things that USC, that there's a feeling that their offense might just run more efficiently without Caleb. So, like, if they go out and beat LSU and look efficient, I think if you're Bears fans, like, oh, wait a second. Was this a thing? Can he play within the structure of the offense? Is that a real issue for him? And is that going to be an issue for the Bears? What's the Bears week 1 game? I guess we'll see them in the preseason. Oh, the Bears play. I don't know. I've not read how much they're going to play him in the preseason. The Bears host the Titans. This is weird. They play the Texans in the preseason and then play them again week 1 or week 2. That's a little odd. Is that for real? Let me check this Bears schedule. Yeah, I'll just put it this way. I'm a little more on alert for that than I was at the draft. So yeah, they play the Texans in the first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game, which is this week. Bears Texans is this week. And then they play them week 2 of the regular season on the road. So they're not going to do anything this week. They go to the Colts, they play the Rams, play the Panthers, play the Jags. Like, they've got a shot to win a few games early. But let's just say, as somebody who was like just all in, I'm not changing my tune. I'm just a little more aware of maybe that storyline having some merit. If you are watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. If you're listening to the podcast, leave a podcast review on Apple. 5 stars, leave a question. There's also a new way to send me either mailbag questions or just if you want to send something. You can go to heyguy.co and just fill out the form that's right there. That email goes to me, heyguy.co. I gotta get a hold of. I gotta not get a hold of. We last talked early last week, and I gotta talk again. Check in on the update on the hats. But for those of you who want hat updates, you're gonna want to buy the 262 hat or the Hey Guy hat or both or 2 of each, whatever. Also at heyguy.co, there is the ability to sign up for that. Click the button that says yes, I accept marketing. I'm not spamming you. You just, the way the system works, you have to click that button to end up on the mailing list. So click that button and you'll be alerted when hats go on sale. All right. I will talk to everybody